Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Juliana. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Stella. Thank you so much for being with us today. Hi, everyone. It's very exciting. So today's webinar, it's about emotional intelligence for job interviews. And as you know, we have a special guest with us, Stela Klein. She's an executive and life coach, and she's been here with us before doing a webinar about salary negotiation. So if you guys have the chance to watch it, so please write in the chat for me so we can see. Let me see. We'll just give a few minutes here before we start, just to make sure, just to wait for people to get into the room. So just wait a few minutes.
How's the weather in Vancouver, Juliana?
It's great. It's summer. It's amazing. Yeah.
Oh.
But it's end of summer, so it feels a little, it's kind of sad too.
Yeah.
Yes. Are you in France right now?
I'm in France. I live in Lyon, in the west side of France. Here today we had a cloudy sky, but sort of 30 degrees Celsius. It was pretty hot.
Amazing. So hi everyone. Yeah, there are a lot of people already in the chat. Hi Monica. Hi Marcelo. Awesome. Okay guys, so just to warm up a little bit, I have a couple questions for you today, just to kind of have a sense of like who is here. And because today's webinar is all about emotional intelligence, I'd love to know, so I'm going to pose the poll here.
Now we're going to have some polls.
Yes.
Oh, good.
So my first question for you is, how are you feeling? How are you feeling today? How are you feeling right now? I'll give you a couple seconds. Well, that's amazing. A lot of people excited.
Wow, Nigeria, Colombia. We have someone from India. Hi, everyone. Yeah, good to see you.
That's great, guys. A lot of people excited, optimistic, curious. Me too. Amazing. So next question. Next question is, just one moment. Okay. How do you usually feel during a job interview? Overwhelmed. Yes.
Good question. Yeah.
Some people enthusiastic, confident. That's great. Amazing. Okay, and my last question. My last question here. Just one moment. Okay. It's how, have you ever been in a situation where you couldn't control your emotions during an interview?
That's so tough. Oh my God. Yeah.
I know.
I bet that happens to everyone, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it's so tough. Yeah.
I'm surprised. Well, now it's almost 50-50%. Yeah, it's 50-50. 50% of people said yes and 50 no. Wow, that's amazing. Well,
Amen is saying, yeah. Amen is saying got angry due to silly questions. Yeah, sometimes we do receive some very silly questions from interviewers, but we do have to cope with that, right?
Yes, yes. All right, people. So thank you so much for replying, voting the poll questions. Let's begin. And during webinar, we'll have 2 Q&A sessions. So anytime you guys have any comment or questions, please write it down in the chat for us so we can optimize our time. And yes, so I'll pass the mic to Stella.
Okay, Juliana, again, thank you so much for having invited me to be here again with Van Hack. It's really a pleasure to collaborate with you. We're going to have sort of a 40-minute conversation here. Today's webinar is about emotional intelligence for job interviews. In fact, we talk a lot about emotional intelligence as if it were something new. It is not something new, right? Because as humans, we all have emotions, right? We all have to deal with emotions in all kinds of situations, not only professional situations, but also personal ones. But from some years from now, people started to discuss it as an important skill, an important professional skill. And the fact is that those who cannot manage their own emotions, they may even jeopardize their jobs, because in fact, on a daily basis, in our work, we all deal with difficult situations, right? And especially when we are talking about job interviews, when the pressure gets really high, it's really important to identify what we are feeling, which kind of emotions we have, how to deal with them, how to deal with the person in front of us, right? So it's many different things at the same time. And I teach in an IT school with a lot of professionals, and from time to time I receive the question, but Stella, in my daily work, I deal with computers. Why do I have to learn about emotional intelligence? Why is that important? And in fact, it is, right? We are humans. We depend on relationships, personal and professional, all the time. So it's really important to discuss this subject, because it can help our performance on a daily basis, or it can harm our performance in our job. So this webinar today, and I hope that will be useful. Please, if you have questions, drop them, and we are going to have, like Juliana said, 2 periods to talk about that, 2 moments to talk about the questions you have. And the idea is that we are going to discuss, okay, the basics of emotional intelligence, how to apply that during job interviews, and what could we do to improve what we called our emotional quotient. Because we always heard about the IQ, right? The intellectual quotient. And this one is already defined. We cannot change it throughout our lives. We are born with a specific IQ. But the EQ, the emotional quotient, this we can improve. We can develop that throughout our lives. So the more we discuss about it, the more we train ourselves in emotional intelligence, a better emotional response we are going to have. So let me share my screen with you, and let's start talking directly to the point, right? So just to very quickly present myself, I'm a coach since 2013. I did a coaching certification, and I work with executives in executive coaching, career coaching. I also work with expatriates because I am a Brazilian lady. I've already lived in Italy. I'm here in Lyon since 2016. So I have some experience in expatriation as well. So I work with a lot of expatriates and I prepare people for retirement. But before I become a coach, I was an executive professional in marketing. I worked with branding for many, many years in international companies. And that gave me the opportunity to have a direct contact with people from different countries. I had a chance to travel all around the world. I had teams in different places. And it was a really good opportunity to meet different cultures. So nowadays I speak different languages and I do coaching in different languages. And I write a lot. It's a way also to offer some valuable content to people, independent if I'm going to work directly with them or not. And I'm a volunteer coach in 2 associations here in France. Both of them linked to the business world. So this in a short pitch, this is about me. And just talking about pitch, here there is already a tip, an important tip. A rule of thumb says that whenever someone asks you a question and you are going to answer it, try not to talk more than 2 minutes. Because after 2 minutes, you already start during the same thematic, to the same subject, you may start losing the person who is listening to you. So the rule of thumb says, okay, answer something in about 2 minutes, okay?
Stella, sorry to interrupt you, but I don't see your screen. I don't know if everyone can see your screen right now.
So please check it, Juliana.
Please, guys, say, type in the chat if you guys can see Stella's screen or not.
Yeah?
No. I don't know if you want to maybe close.
Okay.
And
let me do that again. So, okay, maybe I turn this off and here. What about now?
No, I don't. I just see a black screen.
Oh, really?
Can see. Yeah. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Now, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Good?
Oh, good. It's all
okay.
good.
Okay. So I was just presenting myself, right? And when I started preparing this presentation, I saw this quote here: "Making mistakes is better than faking perfections." And I think that it's very appropriate for this talk about emotional intelligence in job interviews, because in fact, whenever we think about a job interview, we think, okay, I have to make a good impression, right? I have to look as if I master everything that I'm going to say. I'm going to offer something that this person will definitely want to have, so that they really would like to offer me the job. And sometimes by having this thought, I may try to, not exactly fake, but I may try to improve something, say a little bit more than what exactly I know how to do, etc. But trying to pass an image that is not true, in fact, it's very dangerous because it's not sustainable in the medium and long term. So whenever we talk about emotional intelligence, especially when we talk about job interviews, it's a lot better to be yourself. And it really takes a lot of courage to be ourselves. And it's a lot better to do that than trying to create an image that it's not you, that's not going to be you on a long-term basis. Okay? So, what exactly is emotional intelligence, right? So we have this quote from Aristotle that says, anyone can become angry, and that is easy, right? But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, and for the right purpose, and in the right way, this is not easy. And in fact, when we talk about emotional intelligence, it's really about this, right? So sometimes you are so angry, you are so furious, or you are so frustrated. All you want to do is to beat someone, is to find some trouble, right? And express all of this energy, this angry energy. But the thing is that the emotional intelligence, or someone with a high level of emotional intelligence understands, acknowledge what the person is feeling, what you are feeling, what the other person is feeling, and you start choosing exactly what you want to express and how do you want to express. And in fact, this is what emotional intelligence is. This is the ability to use your emotions in a positive and in a constructive way in all the relationships you have. This is the basics of emotional intelligence. And in fact, all emotions, they are valid in the workplace. We are not talking about some emotions that are good, some that are not okay. No, all emotions, they are good. Sometimes the emotional reactions can be inappropriate. So we're not talking about the emotions themselves, but how do we use them? Okay, and that makes all the difference. On a practical side, when we are talking about emotional intelligence, we have this model, which particularly I think it is very useful, because it says that to have a high level of emotional intelligence, in fact, we are talking about 4 competencies. 2 of them, they are personal, so self-awareness. You're talking about yourself, acknowledging what you are feeling, what your emotions are. Self-management, meaning that, okay, once that I identify what are my emotions, what do I do with them? What are the ones that I choose to use, to express? What are the ones that I identify that are not useful for me anymore? And how do I deal with them? And we have 2 competencies linked to the social aspect of that, which are the social awareness, meaning, okay, am I able to identify and acknowledge the other person's feelings and emotions? This is social awareness. And the relationship management, in the same way, okay, once that I identify what the other person is feeling, what do I do with that? And how do I relate to this person at this point in time? So this presentation is based on these 4 competencies and how do we use them during a job interview. Okay, so once we have defined what emotional intelligence is, I think it is also important to define what is an interview. And I like to talk about that because a lot of time we go to interviews already feeling less than the interviewer, right? As if, okay, I want a job and someone is going to judge me if I am able to have this job. But in fact, when we pay close attention to a job interview, we notice that in fact it is an exchange of offers, right? I have something, I'm going to present something, skills, competence, intelligence, etc., the abilities that I have, and the company is offering me something as well. And both sides are going to evaluate if there is a chance to have a good match or not. So when we have this mindset about job interview, that helps a lot in terms of emotional intelligence, because I do understand that I also have a chance to evaluate what is going to be presented to me. It's not just that I am being evaluated by someone else and I have no choice. It is an exchange of offers. Okay. So let's start with the first competency of the emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness. Okay. So what is self-awareness? Even the most self-confident person feels insecure from time to time, and especially during an interview, right? So why? Because someone is judging you, because it's sometimes you are talking in a different language, and you think that, okay, what if the person is going to ask me something, I'm not going to understand exactly what that person said? What if I lost words and I don't know how to express myself? There is the pressure of getting a job. I need this job, so it's my last chance. What if the person does not like me? And something that puts in ourselves a lot of pressure is this idea that I will prepare myself in such a way that I will try to control the whole interview. But in fact, that's impossible. Okay, this idea of controlling or keeping controlling is it doesn't exist, right? But what if I cannot control? So what do? I do have to prepare myself, and if I do not have this idea of trying to control and master the situation, I'm going to be in trouble because I'm not going to be prepared. So I'm not talking exactly about not being prepared, right? But when we're talking about self-awareness, the highest or the biggest enemy of self-awareness in a bad interview is the lack of self-knowledge. So let's start in this way. And what do I mean about self-knowledge? First of all is this lack of training and preparation. There is sometimes there are people that go to interviews and they do not prepare themselves. And what do I call being prepared? Train your pitch. Okay. Think about the main questions that an interviewer will use. Those traditional questions like, okay, could you tell me a little bit about yourself? Could you tell me about your experience? Why did you quit this job? What about your interest in this part of your career? Why would you like to work for us? This kind of things, preparation, right? But there is the thing about controlling is that you will never be able to imagine the thousands of different possible or potential questions that someone may use, right? This will not be possible, never. So this part of the training or the preparation, you cannot control. You're going to train yourself in some basic questions, but it will be impossible to imagine all of them. But what you do control are these three things here. And in fact, that will help you a lot to build self-confidence. So first, what do I really know technically speaking? Because a big part of self-confidence comes from, okay, I'm 100% sure of what I know, what I'm good at. And from the things that I don't know, I am also confident because I already know that I don't know. So I'm not going to pretend that I know something, because that would not be helpful, and that will put me in trouble sooner or later. But I'm really confident that this part of the job, I do master that. And it is really important to think about it for an interview. The second thing, how's my English, or how's my German, or how's my French, or whatever language you need to speak during an interview. If you know that you're not good at English, okay, so start studying, right? So this part of self-knowledge and self-awareness is very important. Don't think, okay, my English is enough probably for an interview, and you really you stop studying and you go to an interview, and then you are not able to express yourself. That for sure will put your self-confidence down, and so that will make your fear and your anxiety comes up, and that will be very harmful to the rest of the interview. And the third thing that you can control, okay, what helps me to calm down when I feel stressed? Because chances are that you are going to feel very stressed during the interview. And if you already know what is helpful for you, so breathing or counting 10 to 0, or drinking some water, or ask for 5 minutes to refresh your mind, whatever. But if you know already yourself and you know what helps you to calm down, that will make your life easier as well. So what are the consequences of low self-awareness when I do not know exactly how do I function? What am I feeling? So first thing is I act out my feelings. I do not modulate them, meaning, okay, I'm angry and I express my anger very, very easily. I'm starting to feel nervous and then I start to cry, for example. So if I do not start paying attention to what's going on inside me, chances are that I'm going to act out my feelings right away. And the second thing is that I will not notice that ultimately my emotions govern my behavior. So I act exactly according to the way I'm feeling at that moment, and not as in a more reasonable way, right? So, okay, so this is self-awareness, but how can I improve that? So first technique that you can use prior to an interview, for example, and these are day-to-day things, okay? It's not just, okay, I have an interview tomorrow and I'm going to train this today and I'll never train that again. No, it is something that you're going to train on a daily basis. So first, do not consider feelings as good or bad. It's not because you're feeling sad that sadness is a bad thing, or you're feeling angry that anger is a bad thing. When we are talking about emotions, again, there are not bad emotions or good emotions. What are the problematic part of the emotions is how we express them, but not the emotions themselves. Okay? Second thing, you have to learn who and what push your buttons, in the sense that, okay, what makes me irritated? Usually, what kind of person makes me sad? What kind of situation makes me feel anxious? Because if you know that prior to the situation themselves happen, you will have more chances to understand the situations and try to debrief about them and try to understand, okay, what could be a better reaction? And then you start learning from that. The third thing, observe the ripple effect from your emotions. Okay, whenever I feel angry, it happens this. Whenever I feel too enthusiastic, this is what happens to me. So start observing yourself and the consequences of how you react to your emotions. A fourth technique that you can use is body sensations, in the sense that, okay, for example, I'm starting that I notice that I start sweating, for example, in some situations. I really feel like my heart is bumping so hard that it's going to come out of my mouth. So start paying attention to your body sensations. They also tell you about the emotions you are feeling. And ask for feedback, for example. If you have a good friend, if you have a mentor, if you have someone you trust, so from time to time, ask them for feedback. when I was in this situation with that person, you were there as well. So what advice you could give me? Have you seen how I reacted? What did you think about it? Do you think that I could do that I could respond in a different way, for example? So start discussing this with people that you trust. Okay? So we talked about self-awareness. Let's talk about the second competency of this personal side of the emotional competency model, which is the self-management. So once that I identified things that I have that is happening inside me, what do I do with them, right? So we have high self-management when we remain calm under pressure, right? So there is some chaos around, and I can stay calm, and I can think about the situation and try to select the best reaction first. Second characteristic, I am not rude or impolite with people. Yeah, there is a lot of people that when they are in difficult or tough situations, they start to be aggressive, right? So these people, they do not have a high level of emotional intelligence. Third, do not avoid tough conversations, especially at work, right? Sometimes, even for example, someone who has a team and they have to give tough feedback, and there is a lot of people that try to avoid these situations, and they never give feedback because they don't know how to do that. They are afraid of hurting the other person, or you can give any reasons you may give. But people with a good self-management, when we're talking about emotional intelligence, they do not avoid tough conversations. They go directly to the point. They are very kind. In fact, they are very polite. They are very calm, and they offer the message as the message needs to be given, right? The fourth characteristic, they do not fall into others' emotions. And especially in job interviews, that's very useful, because let's take the example when the interviewer is frustrated about anything, and you will never know about it, or they are very angry, or they are anxious, and the person starts to talk very fast. It's their emotion, it's not yours. So you try to manage yourself and not to fall into the interviewer emotion, right? So you are able to identify what's going on, but you are also able to manage your own emotion and say, okay, I'm going to continue with my pace. I'm going to tell whatever I need to tell to make a good impression, but I'll remain as I am right now, period. And the fourth characteristic here, do not react immediately after strong emotions. In French, French people say réagir à chaud, react in hot, in the sense that, okay, there is something that's coming in, and I react immediately. Even I cry, even I shout, even I'm too happy, because sometimes even good emotions, when we go to the extreme of this palette of intensity, it becomes bad as well, right? Too much happiness, when it is not appropriate, it's also bad. So someone with a high self-management skills, they do not react after strong emotions. So that's why I'm saying here at the left down corner of this slide, even positive emotions need to be managed as well, because sometimes they are not appropriate. Okay? So during interviews, what is important when we are talking about self-management, right? So remain calm, and because of course there is a lot of pressure, but it's imperative that you remain calm. Okay? Try not to panic. And sometimes we do forget about things. Okay, but what if I forget? Can I change subjects, or can I ask 1 minute because I forget about something, and then I'll be back with this information as soon as I can. So even if you forget about something, sometimes it happens. What can you do to manage the conversation in a positive way? Smile and apply humor when appropriate. In fact, that's very, very useful, right? Sometimes there are people who doesn't know how to apply humor and go too deeply in a joke, for example. That's going to be bad, of course. But if you smile and if you say something that will please the interviewer, that will be also useful. Very important, this fourth item here, say no when necessary, right? Sometimes if you don't know something, you have to say, I don't know, right? If the interviewer is going to ask you, would you accept working on holidays? And you know, that's why self-awareness is so important. You know that you hate working on Sundays. If you just say yes to get the job, okay, maybe you will get the job. But very soon you are going to be so frustrated with that. So don't waste your time and don't waste the time of the interviewer. Say no when necessary. The fifth point here, ask for clarification when you do not understand a question. Right? It's very mature. In fact, when someone makes you a question and you says, sorry, I don't get your point. Could you say it in another way? Can you give me an example of what do you mean with this question? Can you say that again? So no problem saying that you did not understand. Okay? Stay objective. Sometimes people talk and they never stop talking. No, go right to the point. There is a huge difference in being laconic, saying just 1-2 words, and there's no content for the interviewer to explore. That's very, very bad. But at the same time, it's also very bad when the person never stops talking. Keep presence in the sense that you are there, you are paying attention. You don't have your mobile phone with you. Nobody's going to disturb. You're not going to get lost because a fly entered in the room. No, you're looking at the eyes of the interviewer. You are paying attention to them. You are answer accordingly. And show self-confidence. And how do you, okay, Stella, how do you show self-confidence? These things will definitely help. And the ones we are going to see in the sequence. Okay, so techniques to improve self-management. Okay, first thing, pay attention to your self-talk. Okay, I'm not sure if you know what a self-talk is. It is this inner voice that we all have. And sometimes our self-talk may be very bad to us, in fact, right? I'm not good enough for that. No, I cannot do. I'll never get this job. Why am I applying to that if I know that I'm not able, I'm not capable? I performed very badly in my last interview. Probably it's going to happen the same thing. I don't deserve this job. A long time ago, I read a book from the tennis player Djokovic. And he said something that was very interesting. He said that nowadays in the world of tennis, in the world of professional tennis, all players, they very look alike because all of them have access to great techniques, to wonderful coaches, to the best nutrition items all around. So they have the same preparation. What makes the difference between the one who's going to lose the game and the one who's going to win it is the mindset, is the one that after missing a ball, they are able to erase that from their mind and start it from scratch as if they were just arriving in the court. And in fact, that's it. It's not that they don't have what I think that Djokovic was saying is that they don't have this inner talk, in the self-talk that says, okay, you lose it, you're going to lose it again. Oh, you miss the ball, you're going to miss the ball again. Because this negative talk, it's very dangerous, because that put us down, right? That put our self-confidence in risk. So one of the things to improve the self-management is identify the self-talk and try to reframe it or rephrase it or erase it, substitute them to other stuff. I'm not smart enough. No. Okay, I am smart. What are the things that I've already done in my life? How many good things I've already done? What is the value that I produce to my former company, employer? What are the things that I've already got in my life? So try to remember all of this to erase the self-talk, okay? And other techniques. So breathe. So if you notice that your heart is going to be out of your mouth, that you're starting to sweat or whatever, you can breathe, you can count to 10. You can make visualizations before the interview. That's very helpful as well. So imagine yourself doing great, expressing yourself clearly in an objective way. See yourself doing that. Visualization is also something that the athletes, they do a lot in sports. They see themselves winning, right? You may also focus on your abilities. So instead of thinking, okay, but if they ask me about this, I don't know how to answer, I'm not good at that. No. Do the opposite. Focus on the things that you know how to do. Focus on your skills. And I say that again, train. Because if you do not prepare yourself, if you do not train, chances are that you are going to be lost in the middle of the interview, right? So even if you cannot predict or control all of the questions that are going to be made for you, at least you can train. You can talk about your career history, so you know about yourself very well, and that will be definitely very helpful. So let's see if there are some questions. If someone has any questions related to these two competencies that we talked here, and let's see if I can be helpful with some questions.
Sure. Yeah, I've got a few questions on the chat. So let's take a look. If you guys have questions, please feel free to type that in the chat. Let's see.
I'm already reading here. Monica is saying that she's doing meditation to improve self-management. That's very, very helpful. Yes, Monica. And scientifically speaking, they are already, it's not something new. People know about all the benefits of meditation. It helps focus a lot. Fernando was saying, how can you handle with these bad feelings when you failed getting a new job many times? Well, Fernando, okay, but prove me that you cannot do good things throughout your life. Try to make this list of all the things that you've already achieved. And I'm sure that you achieved many, many things. The problem is that we focus on very small, important things. Of course, getting a job is important. But if you focus just on that, you are going to have in your memory just the failure of these interviews. But your life is not a failure, right? So try to do this exercise. Make a list of all the good achievements that you've already had, okay? What else? Juliana?
Let's see here. I have a question here. Is that okay to talk about emotions on an interview?
Yeah, yes, it is, definitely.
Yes.
Of course, you cannot over talk, meaning that, okay, like, for example, let me give you a quick example. If you say, well, I'm feeling very nervous, and and then you start, whenever I feel nervous, I start sweating, and well, I'm afraid that I will lose some of the information that I had about myself. So you start talking about that. No, but you can say, yes, well, I'm very nervous, but I'm positive this will be a good interview. So let's start it. So you talk about the emotions, right? And even if you have, for example, if the interviewer comes to you and says, well, I'm seeing that you look a little anxious about this, right? And you say, well, in fact, yes, but I'm very positive that I can handle this interview, and I'm so excited about this opportunity of working with you. So you see, you acknowledge what you are feeling. You may talk about that, but always in a positive way.
I see. That's amazing. It seems there are a lot of people having questions about, how you deal with failure, how you deal with not being called for an interview, or with those, bad feelings.
Well, the world is a not easy place to live in, right? So sometimes we're going to have tough situations to deal with, sure. Sometimes it will be a piece of cake. So the important thing in life is not to nurture bad feelings, bad emotions, and bad thoughts. That's very important. So as I was saying to Fernando, yeah, of course we're going to fail in many times in our lives in different situations, not only professional ones, but even personal ones. But those failures, they do not represent us. They are moments in our lives, but they do not are who we are. So as Dinesh is asking here, how to handle the situation when you just arrived for the interview and the interviewer is in a hurry and the person doesn't look interested to continue talking to you. Well, you don't know what happened to the person, right? Maybe it is a personal problem. They have a problem with their kids at school and they are thinking about that, and they do want to finish the interview as fast as they can. But from your side, you need to talk about you, right? So first, you try to be as objective as you can, right? To save the time of the person in front of you, and not to go around the bush giving details that the interviewer are not interested in. But it may happen that the person is so in a hurry that you acknowledge that, and you may ask, well, I'm noticing that perhaps something happened and you don't have any more the time that you planned for this interview. Would you like me to come back again another time? Why not? You may ask this. And in fact, if you do ask that, you are gaining some points in emotional intelligence, because, and this is what we are going to talk in a few slides later, we are talking about acknowledging the other person's feeling, right? So you are noticing how the person in front of you is, you are paying attention to that, and you are validating what's happened to the person in front of you, and you are trying to manage it. So this is a suggestion of how you can deal with the situation.
Amazing.
Okay.
There's another question here. Yeah. So speaking of failure, how can we answer questions like emotional, intelligent questions? Tell me like an embarrassing story or a time that you had a dilemma or a failure, how you deal with conflicts, or things along those lines. How
Yeah.
can you answer?
Yeah. In fact, these kinds of questions, these kinds of emotional intelligence questions, they are present every day in job interviews, and the best way to answer them is to be true. Is really to not to try to fake a situation or to made up as if there was no problem, you just didn't notice or something like that. It was a piece of cake. No, you tell the truth. Yeah, this was very hard for me because of this and that. And the point in this, in answering in a good way this question, is that you always have to finish the story telling what have you learned with the story, with the situation, what did you do or what have you tried to do, and how that situation helped you to be more prepared for a next time when a similar situation will happen again. So when someone asks you, okay, tell me about a conflict, or tell me about a day when you had to deal with a tough boss. Tell me about a day when you received a very bad feedback. This thing. So you talk about your feelings. Well, I felt very unhappy. I felt very insecure. I felt very angry. But I did this, and that. And I learned that this, and that. That's the best way to answer this kind of questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Stella.
Okay, so let's move.
Let's move on to the next part.
Okay, so when we talked about the personal competencies, and now let's talk about the social competencies. And the first one is the social awareness, right? So social awareness is when you are aware of those around you. Okay, so how they feel, how you feel, and how the two of you, or how the group is going to interact, right? So here we are talking about one of the things that helps in paying attention to other people's emotions is the body language, okay? And I don't know if I can make a question to people, right? Can I, Juliana?
Yes, of course you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people can write in the chat. Yeah.
So tell me something. How do you notice people's emotion when we're talking about body language? What do you notice in them? Can you share with us? If you notice how they move their hands or their expressions on their face, could you please write down how do you identify people's emotions through their body language? Let's see what people write here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's just give like a couple seconds. So what was the question again? Oh, there we go.
How do you identify people's emotions through their body language? Mm-hmm. Do you pay attention to what?
There's some answers. Face expressions and voice. That's a good one.
Legs shaking. That's true. The volume of the voice. Eye contact. That's true, Monica. Eye contact. Yeah. Expression.
Pablo said shoulders, foot, hands position.
Hand movement. Yes, Orlando. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. But pay attention to something. People, for example, sometimes when someone has their arms crossed, it's a lot of literature says that, okay, the person is not agreeing with you. No, sometimes it is just that the person is cold, is feeling cold, because their conditioning is too strong. So whenever you are paying attention to the body language of the person, do not take just one element, okay? Try to pay attention to different elements. And here I listed some of them. So the body movement, the gestures with their hands or even with the body, the posture of the person, right? Usually the easiest one is the facial expressions, right? The voice, and the volume, the pitch, the tone, the pace of the words, the inflection, right? Even the quality of the words that the people is using, and how the voice comes in or comes out, right? And a lot of time, I once saw a study that said that when you were talking to someone, the words represent only 17% of the communication, the message. That's why sometimes we receive a positive message from someone, but we end the conversation thinking, okay, this is not going to work, right? No, this person is lying. So why do we have this impression? Is because we are reading. We are not just listening to the words, but we are listening to the voice. We are reading all of this body language, right? André Luiz is saying blushed. Yeah, that's true, right? So it is, even if you do not know how to identify people emotion in an intellectual way, try to pay attention to their body language. Okay, that's very, very important. When you have, for example, a job interview by phone, and you don't have the interviewer in front of you, you take the phone and you speak smiling. From time to time, you smile as if you were smiling to the person in front of you. That changes the tone of voice, right? It is so important to try to master your body language, and you start reading people's body language as well. Okay, this is a very important way to identify other people's emotion, even when they are lying. Okay, another important characteristic of social awareness is what we call the active listening. And it's really a special competency because, for example, when we're talking about hearing, this is a physical reaction, right? But when we're talking about feeling, it really implies attention. And nowadays, attention is one of the scarcest resources we have. Right? Even now I'm talking to you, but I bet that some of you are not paying attention to me, right? You are looking at your mobile phones, you are eating, you are doing something else, but physically you are here in the webinar, but you are not paying attention. Nowadays, attention is really something very, very rare. And active listening is really a core emotional skill. Right? Because you are in front of someone, you are offering your attention, you are present. And I'm not sure it was Monica, someone was mentioning about meditation, right? Trying to be there. So practicing presence is very important. And active listening helps in the process of empathy, meaning that, okay, I understand what the other people I see what the other people is going through, and I try to understand what they are going through. This is empathy, and this is a core competency in emotional intelligence. So sometimes we do not recognize what the other person is is feeling, or we do not want to recognize because we don't know how to deal with other people's emotions, right? So what are some techniques to improve your social awareness? So eye contact, someone was talking here about eye contact, and that's so true, right? Sometimes there are people that cannot sustain the eye contact, and that's so important. Handshake. Do you have you already have the experience of handshaking someone and it's like the person is trying to not touching you, so you are trying to touch the person in this business handshake, and it's flew the contact, right? This is very bad. In fact, it doesn't give you the sensation that that relationship is solid or that person is solid, right? A smile helps a lot, right? Greet people by name. Okay, and there was another research that was saying that the word that we like most to listen is our own name. So greet people by name is very, very important. Pay attention to timing. Again, as one of the person was mentioning, what if the interviewer seems to be in a hurry, right? Maybe there is something going on. I have to pay attention to that. Practice the active listening that we were discussing here. And of course, watch and interpret body language. And let's move to the last competency, is the relationship management. So once that I recognize the other people's feelings, what do I do with them? How do I manage the relationship, right? So this is the ability to interact with people in a more effective way. So what are the techniques that we can use? So one of the things is definitely avoid giving mixed signals, right? So sometimes we think about something, and our face means something, but we say something different. Or in a long relationship, a professional relationship, but sometimes even in an interview, I say something that I'm very good at this and that, and some minutes later I give an example of something that happened that shows completely the opposite, right? The second thing, tackle tough conversations. So don't run away tough conversations. If the interviewers ask, okay, if you got fired from a previous job, and the interviewer asks, okay, why have you got fired from your last job? And you just say something very fast and you try to move from subjects. No, you explain what happened, always in a positive way, but don't run away from that, right? You can also demonstrate your active listening by using the other people's previous comments. That's very, very helpful, in fact, right? For example, if the person always used the word performance in some of your answers, you can also use the same word, right? So you keep in with the same vocabulary of the person. You thank the interviewer for that time and attention. That's so basic to be done, right? And it's always important to make questions, right? I've already seen some interviews in which, and I participated in some of them, and I said, okay, would you like to make some questions? And the person says, no, I'm fine. That's impossible, guys. If you just say that, no, I'm fine. Okay, I'm not interested in the job. That's the message that you're passing, right? So it's important that you make questions about the job, the role, the company, etc. But when we're talking about relationship, you may also make questions about the roles of the interviewer as well. For example, okay, so you are here in HR. Okay, so what exactly is the role of HR, the strategic role of HR in your company? So why have you joined the company? Are you happy in your position? What is the interaction in between your area and the area that I'm going to work for? So these are the kinds of the questions that you may ask to the interviewer, and because you are making these questions, you show interest in the person as well. That's very useful, in fact. So we come to the end of the this webinar. Do you have other questions that you would like to discuss?
I got a other question here in the private. Let me find here. As we're talking about social awareness, I'm an introverted, so how can I enhance my social skills? That's a very good one.
Yeah, well, in fact, some of the techniques are those that we discuss in here, right? In the sense that you start smiling, even if it is not that easy in the first in the first moment. You make questions as well. So even if you are a little bit shy, it is important to make questions, right? You try to memorize the person's name and you call her by the person's name. So these are little techniques that you can use. Okay. Mayara here is asking how to deal with a poker face interviewer. That's very hard, in fact, Mayara, because you never know what is the impression of the person, right? But that brings you again to this idea of self-confidence. So even if you cannot read or interpret what the person is thinking, try to pay attention to yourself. What are the basic message that you need to deliver, right? What are the skills that you do want to show? So if you try not to be impressed by the person, but you focus on what you need to deliver to that person, that may help. Okay. Andre is here. What do you do when you realize that the interviewer has lost attention on what you were talking about? Well, in fact, some reasons, right, for that. First, maybe you talked too much. Maybe you said something that the person did not understand, and the person did not stop you to say that again. But in any case, you should try to finish what you're saying, and either you wait for another question, or you may even ask the person, am I being clear enough? Would you like me to say that again, maybe? Or you make a question to the interviewer about anything that you were discussing before, but definitely you need to finish what you're saying because you lost the person. That's true. What is the right response when asked if you mind being hired for another role instead of the one you applied for? Well, Davis, in fact, there is no right response for that. The right response will be the one that will be the most honest response for you, right? If you were in this job interview for a specific job, and at the end, at the middle of the interview, they are going to offer you something different. You have to ask for some clarifications, right? So what happened to that job that I applied for? That position has been canceled. You're not working with that anymore, and you have to be honest with yourself. Does this new position will satisfy me or not? Will I like to be here or not? And if you feel the answer is not, you're going to say, no, thank you so much, but really, I was here for another thing. Thank you, Renato. Thank you for your words.
Is asking, sometimes being true about facts get us undesirable situations. So how can we share those facts with the interviewers?
Yeah, well, that really depends on the facts. But first, you should not lie, never, ever. Okay, this is basics, because that lies are going to put you in trouble. Pretending something, as I said in the beginning of this webinar, this is not sustainable. Pretending that you are, or that you know something, is not sustainable. Usually the tough questions, they appear when we're talking about why have you been fired, right? For example, if it was because of performance, right? It's important that, okay, you may say, yeah, well, at that point in time, I was not performing well because this, and that. And then you add something positive, in the sense that, but immediately after I learned this, I did that, I prepared myself this way, I evolved in this area, so whatever. So whenever you have something, you are inside a question that needs a tough answer, and something that may be negative, don't try to run. If you can omit without consequences, it's not something important. Okay, you're not going to be naive to start talking about something that was not questioned, right? But again, you should never lie. You say, if you need to say that, you say it, but you add something positive at the end. Okay?
Yes, I totally agree with you. I know, like, answering those type of questions might be a little tough, but I guess what the interviewer or the company want to know, it's your like mindset, right? Like your ability to keep calm or to keep positive even when you fail, or even when during some conflicts. So
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. There are two questions here, also very interesting, Juliana. May I have them? May I read them?
Of course, yeah. We're a little bit over time, but let's answer two questions, and then I have an announcement as well. But yeah, the two last questions.
So very fast. The first one from Ozaji. Sorry if I did not pronounce your name right. So how do you deal with an interviewer who does not allow you to finish answering your question, trying to intimidate you? Yeah, that's very, very bad. I totally agree with you. In fact, that's a very impolite way. Some interviewers think that it is a good way to test the candidate. I do not agree with that at all. But one of the things you can do is really you stop. The person is asking, you are answering. The person stops you, right? Because he or she starts questioning again. You just stop and you wait for the person to finish their question. So it's very tough, but you do that again and again and again, right? Because if you just start to confront the person and say, would you please let me finish my sentence, which will be really okay to do, but in an interview, yeah, as if you do not manage the emotional intelligence of the interviewer, right? You cannot suppose that the person will understand that you are positioning yourself in a clear way. Maybe the interviewer are going to think, well, this person is being aggressive or whatever. So the best and the most polite thing to do is, the person interrupt you, okay, you stop talking and you wait. So if the person is not respecting what you're saying, you will respect what the person is saying, right? And to Subhashini, hi Stella, When I have expressed my opinion, interviewer suddenly confronts on my opinion. How do I handle myself during that time? Well, everybody, free expression, right? Everybody has the right to think in a different way from our thoughts. So one of the things is always to similar to what I said before. You stop, you listen actively, you thank the person for that comment, for example, and if you continue not to agree with a person, you may say, okay, well, I do respect your opinion. Mine is a little bit different, but it's always good to have different opinions in company, right? It's a good example of diversity. So you can even use the argumentation of the interviewer in your favor, saying that this is a highly good example of diversity, different thoughts at the same time. Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Stela, for sharing all those great insights and your expertise. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us, for participating. Great questions. That's a very interesting topic, and what I like the most is like increasing or understanding more about emotional intelligence. It can help you in your professional and your personal life, right? We know it's a high demanding skill nowadays. Ask for interviews in a work environment, but I think at the end of the day, what matters the most is the relationships that we make, right? Is the connections, and starting from how we relate to ourselves first, and then to others. So yeah, and then also this is not a skill that you build overnight, right? It takes time.
Yeah.
It takes practice. It takes patience. So yes, there are a lot of to learn and to practice, and preparation is the key. And Van Hack, we really value preparation, and we want to help you guys to feel more prepared for job interviews, to feel more confident. So yeah, if you guys, I hope that we provided value for you today. So if you guys have any questions or comments, please contact us. We have Stela's contact information here, and I shared my contact information, but I'm sending you guys an email later today with the link for this webinar, with some information about Van Hack. And who's not premium member yet, so with premium we provide some great service for you to prepare for job interviews, as English interview practice, library of online courses about job interviews, JavaScript, or how to build an outstanding international profile. We have premium community support and other great and exclusive content and webinars like this. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you once again. Thank you, Stela.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and I hope at least part of that was useful for you guys. I wish you a lot of success in your careers. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Awesome. And last thing, I'm going to be sending an email later on with a special offer for people to sign up for our premium service. So we're providing a promo code with a 10% discount for our 3 months plan and 20% discount for our 6 months plan. So yeah, but I'm gonna send an email to everyone who participated. And yeah, any questions, please reach out to us. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, thank you, Juliana. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.